This video is made possible by the lovely people over on my Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel or you want to get your hands on some awesome high quality STLs, then please visit patreon.com/Will at Heroic Studios.
So, you want to know how to make a prop, but you necessarily don't want to put in the time sanding and painting and priming and filling in all of the cracks. I get it. 3D printing has opened up the door for us to make whatever we want. Props, helmets, cosplay armors, you name it, that is what we want. Problem is that to get these things looking the way we want takes a lot of time. You have to put in the time and the effort, and let's listen. Everybody's day-to-day is busy. My day-to-day is busy. You're probably busier than me. We don't have hours on end to sand and make a prop look great, all right? With that being said, it is up to you to determine what perfection looks like. So in this video, I'm going to show you an alternative way to make an actual looking good prop without necessarily having to put in all the work, okay? In my last video, we went over the master sword and I showed you how to get that blade looking flawless, looking clean, and looking nice. In this video, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm not necessarily going to go through the entire step process that I did with that project. I'm going to show you how you can work smarter and not do a lot of work, okay? So, with that being said, let's get into it. Also, if you want to try any of the techniques that I'm going to show you here today, you can go check out my Patreon. I just released this Kamen Rider Black RX helmet where you can actually do some really cool things in making it look TV accurate. So go check that out, patreon.com/Will at Heroicstudios. And before we go any further, all my patrons right here, thank you. You guys are awesome. So if you guys want to go and join and get some cool files like this helmet, go check out my Patreon. All right, let's get started. So right now I have the epoxy sitting so it can cure these two parts together. This part wasn't big, wasn't small enough to fit on my bamboo rack, so I actually had to cut it in two, and you can see the line right there in order for this to actually work. So originally I used super glue, but epoxy works better. You just have to let it sit on it for it to cure. Same with this part here. You can see the epoxy, you can see the line. The stuff is still trying to set. Once it's done, you should get a better hold on this stuff than super glue. Now, as for the blade is a little bit different. Again, we're trying to forget about any type of sanding and or post-processing. So the blade was printed in this really gross looking green, and I'm actually hitting it with my favorite metallic dark metal primer here, which is great. It'll give it that grunge metal look, while also kind of keeping everything together. And I might throw a little bit of silver on there, splash it to kind of give it that silver look, get everything going from there. So that looks good so far. I'm going to hit it with another coat pretty soon. Now keep in mind that you are still going to have to use a little bit of Bondo on these parts where you can see the seam. Not a lot, but just enough to kind of cover it up so when you paint it, those lines are no longer there. So that's actually going to help with the epoxy, kind of help keep these parts together, which is great. This is what we want. But you also want to make sure that you don't overfill some of the detail lines that you see there. So again, we're trying to avoid sanding. We're trying to avoid any type of heavy duty sanding to get this stuff looking good. Detailed parts that go with this are here on my M3 Max. You guys can get a better look at the attachments that are going to go on the Leviathan Axe. There's the horse head here, and here are the places where you put all the jewels. Just accents and stuff that are going to be probably painted and hand painted in order to get that extra detail. So here is the axe stick. Everything looks good. I had to re-glue this section back together, and I had to re-epoxy this section here and here. That's why you have the gloss. So I'm holding it now, and it looks really good. It doesn't feel as though it's wobbly. I'm going to let it sit for a little while longer before I start adding in a bit of filler to these creases here. Now for the crease down here, I'm going to add a leather wrap to where you won't have to see this crease or the crease down here, which is what the design actually looks like. Now there is a alternative handle to where it has the crease kind of embedded in the file, but I'm just going to get some leather strap from Amazon and cut it that way. But for the most part, it feels really good to hold and looks really sturdy. I'm not going to swing it because this is a prop. It's not really done, and I want to allow the epoxy and the glue to kind of cure a bit more. So over here, I resin printed the attachments that's going to go alongside the axe. The stuff is still kind of drying. It's already been cured, but I'm going to go ahead and let this sit a little bit while longer before I add paint. Now over here, I almost ran out of resin, but I was able to refill the vat. But it was a little bit kind of messed up here, but I'm not going to reprint it. That was 16 hours of printing for my M3 Max. I think that'll be fine. Call it battle damage, which is what you're supposed to do when you have a mistake like that. I've been continuously hitting it with that dark metal, and so far it looks really good. I need to do something about the top, but you're getting that kind of axe kind of look to it, which looks really good. I need to get it a few more coats, and I think from there it will be done. So now the axe handle is actually looking and feeling a bit more sturdy. Use some epoxy there, and some down here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to ignore the two seams that you see right here, this one and then the one below it, because I'm actually going to use a leather strap, just like how Kratos has it in the game. Up here, however, there is some issue with the seam, but instead of using any type of wood filler or Bondo, I'm actually going to be filling this in with resin. It'll get into those cracks, so when you hit it with paint, you shouldn't see any type of issue with it. Now the problem with that method is that the details you see right here might end up getting obscured once you put that resin in there. So you need to be really, really careful. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. All right, so for added measure, I'm going to see if I can work out top of this blade with some of the resin stuff we just did. Just throw a coat along the edge here and then let it cure. That would be able to smooth it out. We do need to do some heavy sanding. When I say heavy, I mean with a low grit, like maybe a 60 or 80 grit, just to kind of knock this down, and then of course smooth it out with 100, 150 to 20 grit, just to get it smoothed out over here. Okay, otherwise you're gonna have to add multiple coats of resin, and I don't know if you want to do that. So just work your way around this, sand this down, make it get as smooth as possible, and we're actually gonna add the knob that goes on top of here, so we can finish painting it. So far, this thing looks really good of how it looks with the black metal paint. I want to add a few more coats to it, but I want to finish the top and add the knob that goes on top. Okay, so now what we're going to do is that we're going to sand down the parts where we lay down our resin and have it cured, and we're going to sand it down to where we don't have any bumps and bruises. I can even just feel it right here. So we're going to knock it down, starting with a 60, and then we're just going to go over it lightly to fill in these to knock this part down. But so far the resin, if you guys are looking for more stability in terms of how it's holding, it feels more sturdy than it did with just the epoxy and the glue. So that is a plus to using some resin to kind of cure this up as it is. So we'll get to sanding this down, and then finally, we can go ahead and start adding our color to it. So I added the finer details into the medallions I'm supposed to see there, but then I had a thought. What if I also took some of the other two medallions and maybe filled it in with a cool resin and then used the curing lamp to kind of cure it up? And then I thought, I'm going to do that. So that's what I'm going to do for these two. So we're going to have one color on either one with a colored in resin, and I have just the perfect resin for it. I bought this resin a while ago. It is actually like a pinkish orange kind of resin, and I think it'll be perfect to give the axe more of a magical kind of feel, because it is a dwarven axe. So I want to make sure that this thing looks as real as possible. So I'm going to use this resin here, just have a few drops dropped into the square and the triangle, and then have them cured. And the resin isn't going to overflow because these are actually pretty deep, except for this one. This one is actually not that deep, so I need to be careful with that one. Triangle, on the other hand, is actually pretty deep, and I don't think the resin is going to set off. So you're actually going to get kind of like that jewel look with this, which is going to look good. As you can see, this prop here, Kratos' Leviathan axe from the new God of War series, is actually one of my favorite props that I've done. I'm happy with it. It's something that I can go ahead and put on my wall. It is, without a doubt, with all the resin and components up here, it is very top heavy.
Well, if there's too much weight, you lose power on the swing.
But other than that, I like the way it came out. Didn't have to put in a lot of work. This was something that I have been wanting to build for a while now. And now that I have it, hey, guess what? Time to go on to the other parts. I might do Thor's hammer next, or I might go ahead and do Blades of Chaos. I don't know, but I hope this process does help you to knock out projects in an instant. Again, you don't want to go too fast with it. You do want to put in time, and your level of perfection is up to you. Like, what do you want it to look like? Do you want it to look one for one like the game or the show, or do you want it to just kind of put on the wall and mount it, kind of be a conversation starter in your house? That's entirely up to you. I'm happy with how this came out. Could it be better? Of course it could be better. I could have went in and did all the sanding and did all the filling and all the priming and all the stuff on my own, but I really wanted to get this thing done and get it on my wall because it is a project that's been sitting in my queue for 2 years now. So I'm happy. I hope you guys are too, and I hope this tutorial does help you, get started on making props. So next time I'm actually going to show you a better way to do a helmet using resin and baby powder. Ice art, it looks really cool, so I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. And also, it's going to help get rid of some of that old resin that you probably don't even know is sitting on your shelf. It's probably expired and doesn't even work anymore. So this would be a good opportunity to kind of clear out all the bad stuff. So my mic just cut out. So again, guys, take care of yourself. Make sure you do like, subscribe, share this video, and of course, check out my Patreon for more exclusive files. I'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourself. Oh, and happy holidays.